guys, welcome back to my channel. welcome back to the Shina Perspective. I just want to say thank you so much for the insane amount of views, comments and subscriptions that I got for the video that I posted about my experience as a Ugandan living in Kenya. Honestly speaking, it took me by surprise because that has so far been the best performing video on my channel. I am a new creator. I just started out and most of my videos have a little under 50 views. So you can imagine my surprise when I woke up to that video and it had like an insane amount of views and comments and then people subscribing. It was just amazing. So thank you so much, guys. I love you from the bottom of my heart. Anyways, in that video some of you requested me to do a part 2 and I wasn't sure exactly what to talk about in part 2, but here we are. And I think I'm just gonna go through some of the comments on that video and build a little bit more on them, and then also just maybe talk about a few other things, you know, as a Ugandan living in Kenya, right? Also, if you're new here, you're welcome. My name is Shina Caroline Nasolo. Shina as in S-H-E-E-N-A-H. Not Sheila, not Shina with S-H-I. So yes, welcome to my channel and this is the Shina Perspective. So let's dig right in. So on that video, let me just go through the comments. Somebody said, and I think this is a Ugandan, he said, Museveni has raised us a hard way. Everything seems normal. One thing his regime did is to screw free speech and encourage tribalism, and hate, even in the chambers of parliament. Ugandans want to see their country work, but it can't happen when under oppression. You guys do remember me saying in my last video that I don't want to be abducted and bundled into a drone car, and then Kenyans in the comments were asking what is a drone. I think a drone is like the equivalent of the Subarus here that, you know, get people bundled into them during Mandamanu and then they're whisked away. So that is exactly what we call the drone vans in Uganda. So I'm not going to talk about this. I'm not going to add anything to this. So let's just say that we hope that we see a new president during our lifetime, because we were born and raised under this regime. And anyways, we'll proceed. And then there was a lot of talk in the comment section about my accent. Crazy. Some people are saying you don't have a Ugandan accent. Others are saying, oh, you're starting to sound Kenyan. And Jesus Christ, there was a whole back and forth about my accent in the comment section. So let's talk about this once and for all. I believe that sometimes, okay, accents vary. There's always, I think it's about the intonation of words and pronunciation of words. So sometimes you may have quote unquote a posh or refurbished accent, but there will always be something about the pronunciation of certain words that will still portray where you're coming from. And unless you're so keen, you may not necessarily pick up on it. So I will say this, there is a Ugandan accent, yeah? Because just like I said, Kenyans have an accent. We Ugandans as well do have an accent. And I would like to think that I sound Ugandan. If somebody has been around Ugandans for a long time, they could tell that I'm from Uganda. Yes, I may not really have the traditional Ugandan accent, which is influenced by a couple of factors, you know, the schools you go to, the people you associate with, the places you lived, it could be the shows that you watched as a child. So accents are built by a couple of things, but there will always be that pronunciation of certain words that will reveal where you're from. So I feel like I do sound Ugandan at the core. It's just that my accent is a little bit, I don't want to use the word posh, or maybe a little bit refined, quote unquote, but I still do sound Ugandan. However, after also having spent quite some time in Kenya, I have picked up on certain pronunciation of words. So I end up unknowingly or subconsciously pronouncing certain words like Kenyans. So when now I'm in Uganda, people will tell me, oh, you're starting to pick up the Kenyan accent. You're starting to sound a little bit Kenyan, which is, you know, normal because I've spent a lot of time here. I spend a lot of time in the year in Kenya than I do back home. So it's inevitable that I will pick on certain pronunciations, even though I will not sound entirely Kenyan, right? And even when I'm here and I speak, Kenyans will actually tell that I'm not from here. They'll be like, oh, your accent is very different. You must not be from here. So when I see people in the comment section saying, oh, you sound Kenyan, or you don't sound Ugandan, or you sound Ugandan, I'm like, oh my goodness. I actually feel like, and I think I sound Ugandan, like 100% I sound Ugandan. It's just that to the Kenyans, they assume, or they feel like every Ugandan, you know, says things like clothes. It's like how I will, you know, say every Kenyan pronounces the words like excel, excited, you know, but it doesn't mean that everybody pronounces them like that. It's just that there's a certain intonation that will betray you and be like, oh, as much as you have a slightly posh accent, you actually come from this place because I can hear it. I can tell. So yeah, I think let's end that debate. I am Ugandan to the core. I sound Ugandan to the core. Anyway, the next thing that I saw in the comments was someone asked me, someone said, beautiful woman, good English, keep up, welcome to Kenya. Which university were you in Kenya? My queer people come to the front. So I went to the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, that is queer, here in Karen. And I am a lawyer by profession, so I did my Bachelor of Laws degree from Queer. And yes, I hope I answered that. The next one is, this one is quite funny. Somebody said, Uganda is our sibling whom we don't have issues with, and like our older sister, Tanzania. I always find this rivalry very interesting. But then somebody else responded and said, lol, UG is the cousin, TZ is the sibling, and that's because we're more alike and it hurts more. And then somebody else responded and said, that Tanzania, the unmarried older sister with a kid out of wedlock. What does this even mean, guys? This is crazy. But it's always so interesting to see the rivalry between Kenyans and Tanzanians. And I genuinely do not understand, because your meeting point is Swahili. And this is just going to come out as a diss, because we all know that English in Tanzania is it's a rare occurrence. I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of Tanzanians that actually speak proper English. So that means that where the meeting point of Kenyans and Tanzanians is is Swahili, right? But the Swahili in Tanzania is more, I think it's called Swahili Sanifu, like the complicated Swahili, that real concentrated original Kiswahili, which is not the same with Kenyans, unless you go to the coastal areas. So I'm wondering, what exactly are you beefing about? Because you can barely understand each other sometimes. Kenyans speak English, Tanzanians don't speak the English, and then Tanzanians speak Swahili, and then the Swahili that Kenyans are speaking is a little bit watery. So I'm like, okay, what's happening? And then we Ugandans would just keep peace, because we're like, okay, I mean, in the Swahili, that's none of our business. We cannot say anything because we don't understand. And then we're just too peaceful for drama. So we're just over here like, okay, who are we going with? I think we're just peaceful people with everybody. So yeah, the Kenya-Tanzania rivalry is, I don't understand. But I also know that also politically, on that end, there's been a lot of politically and economically, because I know at one point there's a lot of Kenyans that were chased from Tanzania and their businesses closed, or I don't know, it's been like a whole thing. I'm just hoping that maybe someday everything gets better between the different countries and governments, and you know, at the end of the day, we are all Africans and siblings in one way or another. So hopefully people learn to get along better. Yeah. And somebody said, I have been in Uganda for 10 years. Before missing the Ugandan food like pork and cassava mix, binyewa, cheap alcohol of different brands. Don't forget the Ugandan ladies from different tribes like Toro. He said Wanyankole, but we call them Banyankole. And then the Baganda ladies. This person has probably stayed in Uganda for quite some time, because it's hard to find people that know this much information about Uganda, especially when it comes to the different tribes, right? And also this brings me back to the stereotype. When I'm here and then people get to know that I'm Ugandan, the first thing they say, oh, Ugandan women are submissive. Ugandan women kneel down. Ugandan women are wife material. And I'm like, well, So here's the thing, and let me break this down for you. Just like you have many tribes in Kenya, we also have many tribes in Uganda. We could actually be having more if I'm not mistaken, right? And culturally or traditionally, every culture has its own norms. It has its own traditions. It has its own beliefs. It has its own practices. So basically what that means is the Acholi, the Luo, the Banyankore, the Batoro, the Bachiga, the Baganda, the so many tribes, the Lugbar, the Sebeis, the Sabinis, my goodness, it's so many tribes, right? They all have different practices. So I will say the Baganda is like the largest ethnic group. And then we find that so many of them maybe find themselves into other neighboring countries, and different people travel, but most of them are Baganda, right? So you may meet so many Ugandan women in Nairobi, but maybe like 60% of those women are Baganda and not from different other tribes. And now in my culture, because I am a Muganda lady, historically, okay, lately it's a little bit getting washed out depending on where you grow up or the kind of family that you come from. But we were raised, or people, predominantly Baganda girls or Baganda people, not even just girls, but Baganda people, or in Buganda, we were raised to be not, I don't want to use the word slow, but more, what's the word? Maybe respectful in a way. I'm lacking the right word to use. But anyway, Baganda naturally are known for humility, number one. Number two, you don't speak so fast. You speak slowly. You respect your elders. So that means the Baganda girls will kneel down to greet their elders, or maybe serve them or something like that. And then the men will always just humble themselves or something. So it's like there's that culture. And long ago, even younger girls, like when you get to your teenagers, you would be sent to your senga, like your paternal auntie, to now train you on how to, in future, to be a good wife, quote unquote. But that doesn't mean that this is the practice in all the cultures in Uganda. So when you say Ugandan women are submissive, they kneel down, they're very nice, they're worried. Well, we do have tribes where, tribes that are matriarchal. The women are the bossy gender. So you'll find these women don't actually kneel for you. They don't believe in submissiveness. They don't do most of these things. And then you'll be like, oh, I thought all Ugandan women were like this. Not really. It's the specific tribes, I would say, mostly within the central part of Uganda, that have these cultural practices or traditional beliefs and stuff like that. So I think it's a stereotype that has been generalized to all Ugandan women, but don't be shocked if you marry a Karamojong lady or an Acholi woman and they're not here for your crap. Don't be shocked, because they don't kneel. First of all, in the cultures, they don't kneel. They're not raised to uphold a man like he is the epitome of their existence. It's not really like that. And also, even for the Baganda, it depends where you've been raised. There's some families that have really abandoned such practices. So good luck if you find a Ugandan and then you think that all Ugandan women are like that. Come back and tell me about the character development pro max that you might get. The next part is, someone asked, and I've also had this multiple times, people have asked me this and said, well, Museveni speaks fluent Kiswahili, how comes Ugandans don't? I think what this person meant to say is, how come Ugandans don't speak Swahili, and that Swahili should be compulsory in the East African community. I get you, I hear you, but what people don't understand is, one, there is people that actually speak Swahili in Uganda, but it's the less percentage of the population, and most of them are either part of the army or the police. So when you go to these establishments like the army barracks or police service, they do speak Swahili because they are taught in Swahili, I think, during their trainings and whatever. So they do speak Swahili, or some bit of it. And then also people closer to border areas like Busia and Malaba and maybe in the northern part of Uganda, that is Gulu and wherever. You will find people, or maybe as you head to Tanzania, the border of Uganda and Tanzania, or Congo and Tanzania. So the tribes that side, or the people from closer to the border areas, because they're closer to people in the next countries, they do know Swahili. But now when you come to Kampala, neighboring areas, the central, south, whatever, western, we don't speak Swahili. They try to teach it in schools, but it's one thing to learn a language in school, it's another thing to speak it. You may get 100% on a test, but you can barely express yourself in that language. So basically that's that. The largest population of Ugandans doesn't speak Swahili. And also the other thing that people do not understand is Ugandans have a bad history, should I call it a bad history or a dark history with Swahili? And this is something that our grandparents, our parents have told us back in the day. During the turbulent times before Uganda was democratic and all of that, we had a lot of presidents that used to just overthrow each other, so there was a lot of war, people fighting. Today you have a president for like 25 days, and then the next time somebody has overthrown them, and then there's the Amin, the Obotes, the whatever. So during those times, during the insurgency and the wars and everything, the rebels and the soldiers used to hound people and attack people, and were using Kiswahili. Remember, most of these people would convene and organize in countries like Tanzania or Kenya. Even for Museveni, for him to come and conquer in 1986, he had to garner support and have a collective army of different people and support from Tanzania, and I think also from Kenya and from Rwanda as well. So most of these rebels and soldiers would use Swahili as a language of intimidation. They would, I don't know if I will be censored for this word on YouTube, but like they do on TikTok, but RAPE, and sexually assault women, and they would be speaking Swahili. They would come in the middle of the night to steal from you, and then they're speaking Swahili like do 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 do, wait, fungua mlango, do 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 do. You get, so people grew up with that hatred or dislike for the language because it was looked at as a language of fear, a language of intimidation, a language of like authority, like people above them exerting authority over the Wananchis. So it became associated with all of these things, and then our grandparents, our parents, they just didn't like the language up until now. And that's why you see that as much as Swahili has become a language that most East African countries are speaking, like it's even been picked up in Rwanda, in Burundi, in Congo, but Uganda is still lagging behind. It's because people are slow to embrace the language because of that history, right? And also because I think the government is not really intentional about it per se. So we're just, our national language is English. And then because the Buganda people are the majority in Uganda, and also like predominantly occupying the central parts of Uganda where business happens and all of that. So now you find yourself that you're Luo. Like, for example, I'm just giving an example. You're Luo, but you can speak Kikuyu. You're Kisi, you can speak Kikuyu. You're Pamber, but you can speak Kiswahili. So that's the same thing. You can speak Kikuyu. So that's the same thing in Uganda. People from different tribes can actually speak Luganda because it's like you're forced to learn it, because that's the language that is, you know, second to English, predominantly used in Uganda for trade, for so many things, really. So you'll find yourself that even though you come from a different tribe, you have to learn Luganda in order to do certain things. So that's that. But yeah, Museveni can speak Kiswahili because of his background. You know, he lived in Dar es Salaam for a long time, the army and all of that, but most Ugandans, not really. And someone asked me, what's your take on M-Pesa? I love it. I love M-Pesa, and I love the sort of cashless economy here. And I always find a hard time when I go back home, because then I'm not used to always having cash on me. But then now in Uganda, I always have to make sure I have cash, because when you have money on your phone, there's a lot you may not be able to access. And when people ask you to send them, like when you ask people, oh, can I pay with my phone? Can I send you money with my phone? And then they're like, no, maybe just go withdraw. Or can you add withdrawal charges? Or it's... let's just say I love the M-Pesa part here, because it's just so convenient, right? Except for the insane taxes and charges lately for sending money and all of that. But anyway, I do love M-Pesa. I do, because I can walk out of my house with just a phone in my hand, and I can access everything from a public toilet to a fruit by the roadside to a good meal in the city center, to purchasing something, to the mall, anywhere. I will be able to buy whatever I want with my phone, which is not the same in Uganda. I need cash. I need to always have cash on me, which is quite frankly very tiring, very old-fashioned. Like, can we just move? We do have mobile money in Uganda. We do have Airtel, we do have MTN mobile money, but it's just it's not really, it's just for sending money to like here and there, but it's not like a whole thing that, oh, I can go buy a banana by the road and then I'll send somebody money with my Airtel or with my MTN. Not really. So I do love M-Pesa. It's very convenient. I love the fact that Kenya is cashless. There's so many times I take long without holding cash, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's been so long since I held cash here. So yeah, that is my opinion about M-Pesa. This one is very funny. Somebody said, and this is a Ugandan, he said, you have already picked up bad manners talking while eating. I'm sure you eat while walking on streets. Oh my goodness, oh gosh, this shows me that I'm now too Kenyan. Because honestly speaking, remember when I told you how different tribes have different practices? So in Buganda, omuwala omuganda omulungi tatambulanga alya tayogeranga alya. What that basically means is a well-raised Ugandan girl or woman or man does not talk while eating. It also does not eat while they're walking, whilst they're walking, right? And it would be really frowned upon, especially in the villages. You know, there was the habit where if it's time for eating in the villages, they would have like mats, and then you sit down, and then the food is put on like a central place, and then all of you have to sit around this place, and then you eat, but you're not allowed to talk while you're eating until you're done with your meal. Or you cannot walk, like maybe you're eating something and then you're walking. It's you're looked at as someone who is very indisciplined. Like, where were you raised? But that is also really mostly in the villages, because now for us in Uptown, first of all, you eat at the dining, and then you're talking about your day. Your dad is talking about this, your mom is talking about this, your sisters or your brothers. So it's but still, there's, at least even if you're talking, you shouldn't like talk with your mouth full, right? You have to swallow what it is that you're eating, and then you start talking, right? And same goes for the walking. Sit down. You know, why are you in a hurry? That is Baganda for you. Sit down and fast finish what you're eating, and then you walk. But when this person said that, I realized I have actually picked up a lot of Kenyan traits, because I could care less. You will find Kenyans buying the chips. There's a word they call them, mwetu chips, mwetu, I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong. The roadside chips, that is it, the French fries. And then somebody will just, because usually when they give you the fries, they put like a toothpick for you to be able to pick them out. So someone will just walk while they're eating their chips, or they get the smocha, and then they're just walking while biting into it. At first, when I just moved here, that was weird for me. I was like, okay, what's happening? Can you just wait until you go home? But then the longer I remained here, you remember how I told you Kenyans do things fast? So the longer I remained here, I think I've just adapted to that. I'm like, why do I have to wait? Let me just, like, I need to eat it right now. So you will now find me walking while eating something. And yeah, that is my Kenyan badge of honor. Yes. Oh gosh, when I look at these comments, I just die of laughter. Somebody said, and she's Kenyan, she's like, don't be afraid to call us cons. It is true. I con my own sister and relatives all the time. The con man culture in Kenya is crazy. Like, these people just move so fast and they're so smart. You know, there's a lot of con men, there's a lot of scammers. Anyway, this was funny. It was just funny. I just felt like I need to read that out and just laugh, because how do you con your own family? So anyways, the next part is, and then somebody said, suggest a few Ugandan creators. You are just gonna call me bad person for this, but the truth is I am not on social media like that. Like, I rarely follow people, and especially now when I'm here, I tend to see more Kenyan content than I do Ugandan creators, or relate more with the creators here than I do back home. Maybe if I spent a lot of time back in Uganda, I would have a list of Ugandan creators that I could advise for you to, or so I could suggest for you to follow or watch. But for now, I honestly don't, and it's not like I don't want to mention them, but I just don't, because I don't know a lot of Ugandan creators like that. I've not really engaged with a lot of the content in the Ugandan space, but this has given me something to watch out for, especially also because I've started my own channel. I need to see what's happening, right? I need to see who is talking about what can I learn from them. So I am going to be on the watch out for a lot of Ugandan creators, and then the ones that I feel I identify with, or that I like their content, or I hope people can watch out for them, I will be able to share with time, right? It doesn't have to be big creators, really. It could just be people that are starting out, or people that are medium, like influencers or creators talking about a couple of things. So I am definitely going to watch out for that one, and hopefully in my next few videos I'll be able to share some Ugandan creators whose work I have liked, and then you can be able to follow them. Yeah. And then somebody commented and said, I agree, Ugandans food, you defeat us. You can literally eat different foods a month without repeating one food, but in street food we are above you. And then another Kenyan responded and said, above Uganda in what way? In Kenya tunakula tu mandazi, chapati, smocha, and nothing else. I like that it's just Kenyans and Kenyans going at each other. Okay, here's the thing. First of all, I like the fact that Kenyans, contended, like they agreed that Uganda has better food. Thank you so much. I like that. Now, street food. If we're to talk about street food, I don't know much. I don't think I really experienced street food for me to be able to make a comparison, because I feel like my opinion would be very biased and lean towards Uganda, because that's what I know, right? But I know in Kenya they do have the smocha, right? That is the smoky in a chapati, right, with kachumbari. They do have the things that are rolled, I don't know if they're intestines or something, and then they're smoked, grilled over whatever it's called, mutura. There's the boiled eggs again that they sell, and then they put the kachumbari in it. So my experience has not been the best with street food here, because one, I really don't like smokies. They smell like smoke. I know that's a very weird reason. That's a very weird reason for me to not like smokies, but I genuinely don't like smokies for that particular reason. They smell like smokies. Sorry, they smell like smoke, and they taste weird. I prefer sausages over smokies. So I didn't like that part. So I am not in position to judge that, because that is just particular my taste, right? So some other people will tell you they really love the smochas or smokies. I've seen people that have come here and they actually like that stuff. But for me, I don't even like kachumbari because it has onions. I have a hate relationship with onions since I was a kid. My mom told me when I was younger, and then you'd give me food, I would take like the first few minutes before I start eating and just pick out the onions so I can eat the food. So I don't like onions. I don't like the smokies. So I'm not in position to judge when it comes to, or rather to make a comparison when it comes to the street food. And then the mutura I have eaten once before, and I had a very bad stomach upset, and I vowed never to eat that again. I didn't understand. I don't even know what they do. Like, what do they put in it? Is it like intestines? Is it like mincemeat? I've never really understood the process of making mutura, but I ate it once, and that was the last time I've eaten it. I'm never doing that again. What are the street food? The chips mwitu, I think. Does that qualify as street food? I don't know. I do not like tomato sauce. So there's a lot of things I don't like. My goodness. So I can buy the chips, but I would just prefer them to be the chips themselves, without the other sauces and the things that they put on it. So my knowledge about Kenyan street food is very limited, because for the most of the things I don't really like. I've tried some and I just didn't like them. Others, I just look at them, I'm like, no, thank you. But in Uganda, I will say that I like our street food. I like the Rolex, first of all. Those that have not had the Rolex, please go Google it. It's not the watch, it's the street food. It's good. I like the muchomo. We have what we call muchomo in Uganda. I've realized in Kenya they don't really have that. It's the whole it's nyama choma, yes, true, but it's just like nyama grilled on over fire, but in like a foil paper, or just like directly over the fire. And it's never in Uganda. We have the sticks. I don't know, they're called forget the English word for those sticks, where you just now put the meat or the chicken or the sausages that are roasted on those skewers. Oh, thank you, Lord Jesus. The skewers. So you put the nyama on them, and then you roast it over fire, and then someone can just buy, But now here in Kenya, the problem is with nyama choma is you have to probably have like around 300 shillings for you to be able to eat some nyama choma, right? But in Uganda, the one skewer like this could cost about 500 Uganda shillings, or maybe 1,000 Uganda shillings, right? Which is like what? Like 30 shillings? If I'm not mistaken, or okay, let's just say even if it's 50 bob, right? But you can be able to eat muchomo, right? Muchomo of anything. It could be beef, it could be gizzards, it could be the sausages, it could be different things. So I am biased because I may tend to lean towards Uganda when it comes to the street food, but that's also because I've not really had the so much of the Kenyan street food, right? And then the other thing I found so weird was the fact that Kenyans eat ugali with everything and minus soup. Like it just feels like just Kenyans have a hate relationship with soup. I feel like Ruto is here, and then number 2 is soup. I'm sorry. Anyways, but that's the thing. Like, I remember recently there was somebody on X between there was something that happened on X between this chef. He's called The one that does done. I think he calls himself the roaming chef. I forget what his name is. I know his name, but I've actually forgotten the name. And then he was doing a back and forth with a Ugandan. And then he said, Ugandans and their relationship with soup, it's like you guys don't have saliva in your mouth. For a landlocked country, you like a lot of soup. It was along those lines, right? And then the Ugandan guy he retweeted, I think it's called quoting a tweet, his tweet, and said, well, there you go, Kenyans have normalized constipation. And then I asked myself, why is it that Kenyans don't like soup? What did soup do to you people, except for my Kikuyu people, because those ones now, they also do too much. Like, surely, why is there a lot of water, and then there's peas, and then there's potatoes, and all of these things? Anyway, but most Kenyans don't really like soup. You guys will just eat ugali with kachumbari and nyama choma. How? But anyway, so us Ugandans, we're used to at least have maybe some avocado or some little bit of soup or something. Like, I can never eat ugali with dry nyama. It's never happening. If it happens, I just need some soup on the side, so I can wash it down. Soup ni lazima. Let's normalize some soup. Kenyans, please. We're not willing to have a debate with the toilets when we go to the toilet. But anyway, these are some of the things I just love about, the differences in like cultures and countries. Every country has its own norms and whatever. It's what makes us unique anyway. The next one, somebody talked about, last time I talked about how Ugandans put a lot of more effort to dressing than Kenyans do. Ugandans dress to kill, and Kenyans could just care less. Most of them could just not be bothered. And then somebody said, on the point of dressing to kill, it's actually because we don't have a national traditional dress code. We dress in suits and Western style dress code, and that's why you see that we don't dress up. I don't know how this justifies that, and here is why. Again, I think it also comes from the misconception that all Ugandans, like, we are one tribe, which is incorrect. Like I said, we also don't have a national traditional dress code. We really don't. Because when you look at Uganda, where I come from, the Baganda, our traditional attires are the gomesi, which is also called the busuti, or the kanzu for the men. The gomesi is for the women. And inside they put it's called a chikoyi or kikoyi, I think. I don't know. And then it's called kikoyi here in Kiswahili, but for us in Uganda we call it a chikoyi, right? And then the men will wear the kanzus with the coats, right? We don't have a national traditional dress code. Once again, there's no such thing as that in Uganda, because now the Banyankole also have what they call omushanana, right? The Acholis have their different also wear. I don't know what they call it. I don't want to insult them. I don't know what they call it, but they're adorned with a lot of beads, just like the Maasai is here, and so we don't have a national traditional dress code, right? So you saying that, the reason why maybe Ugandans dress to kill is because they have a national dress code or whatever. I don't know if you meant specifically at events like traditional weddings or in general. Because for me, I meant in general, at traditional weddings, white weddings, parties, to the club, to work, Ugandans clean up nice. I'm not saying Kenyans don't. Please get me right. Again, they do. There are people that will put effort. But for the most part, a Kenyan will just not be bothered by these things. It's like, this is not really my priority, right? But a Ugandan will just be going to the club and they will dress like they're going for the Grammys or something. So it's not about the traditional attires, because different tribes have different cultural wear. It's just that Ugandans put a lot more time in what they wear. It's too much work. Even I don't do that anyway, but they do it. That's what makes it a bit different from the Kenyans. Yeah. Anyways, I think that's just about it that I wanted to address and do this part 2 of that video. But at the end of the day, I would like to say that as much as we may talk and laugh about the differences and all of that, at the end of the day, both countries are beautiful and unique in their own way, right? And for me, both countries feel like home. I love them. And each country has its unique magic, and I'm just grateful that I get to experience the best of both worlds. Yeah. So I hope that at the end of the day, it's all love and appreciation for everybody and what makes us us and what makes us different. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for being here today. Please don't forget to support my channel. As you can see, I'm almost hitting the subscribers required for me to monetize my channel. So please click the subscription button, give a thumbs up to this video, share it with your friends. If you haven't already subscribed, once again, please subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell for more videos that I'll post here. I don't promise to always be interesting. I have no niche. I'm still trying to find the niche. But yes, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah!